You're listening to Track Talk with the RacinBoys, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet in Olathe, or visit them online at McCarthyChevyKC.com.
Welcome back. It's Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Phone lines are wide open, 913-381-810, 913-381-810 if you want to make laps here with the RacinBoys. Kirk, you were down at Humboldt last week, and Stormy Scott brings home the $15,000 paycheck. The driver from Las Cruces, New Mexico, has come to the Midwest the last couple of years and really proved that he is one of the top modified drivers in all the country.
Yeah, he had to fight for it there at the end when a yellow flag came out with less than 5 laps to go and had to hold off Zach Vanderbeek to the checkered flag. And for much of that race, he did a flawless job of working the lap traffic. But early on, it looked like Terry Phillips was going to be the guy to beat. He and Scott were the front row starters, and Phillips led the first 15 laps. And during a caution period, inexplicably, Phillips pulled off the racetrack. And Stormy Scott was right behind him when that happened, and was he surprised to see Phillips pull off when he did?
I actually wasn't too shocked. When I was riding behind him on the yellow, I could see that his brake caliper bracket had spun, so I could see that he didn't have no brake, so I figured he was either going to pull off or he was going to try to race.
Then you were able to maintain through a long period of green flag racing until yellow flag came out late. Did you see Zach Vanderbeek coming up on you there in the later laps?
Yeah, I seen him there. We took the restart, and I went into turn 1, and my right front shock was broke. So I went in there, and it just bounced and felt like it was about to flip over, and I pushed, and right there Zach got by me. And I just thought I had to hit the next couple laps perfect. So I hit the next lap good, and then I see the white flag come out, and that just – after that, I kind of blacked out. I think I was just in the zone, and I hit that last lap just perfect.
How much did the track change through the course of the night?
It changed a lot. It was pretty smooth and slimy, and then it started getting a little slick over here in 1 and 2, but the longer the race went on, the track started getting real rough, actually.
And, that had to shock a lot of people because it had been pretty smooth most of the week, right?
Yeah, this is probably the roughest that I've seen this place, which it still wasn't that bad. It just had a couple of ruts, and it had a pretty decent-sized one in the middle of 1 and 2 and a little one in 3 and 4, but it still was a real good racetrack.
Did you make some last-minute adjustments on the race car before you rolled it out for the A-Main?
Yeah, after that hot lap session that we got for the A-Main, we tried something there, and it wasn't very good, so we went back to our setup we had Wednesday, and the car was awesome like it was Wednesday.
That is Stormy Scott, the $15,000 winner of King of America 2 down at Humboldt Speedway. And, the racetrack was just fine. They worked the track before the A-Main 75-lap feature event. And it did get a little bit soft in a couple of places, and I was surprised that Scott was able to get to the finish line because you see his car bouncing around, especially coming out of turn number 4. Then we find out after the race he'd actually broke a shock on that car, and Vanderbeek had completely got around him. Matter of fact, he led 1 lap, but Scott was able to get a good move around the outside and get back around him for the win. So it was a great drive by this driver from out of Las Cruces, New Mexico, who has really got off to a great start this season, and what a big win that is. That, Scott, this has to be one of the premier modified races the whole year. The whole feel of this event, the way they introduced the drivers, they shut the lights down and had the spotlights introducing the drivers, and Stormy Scott, the winner, put this cape on with the robe and sat in a big king's chair. And it was really a great night of racing. About 90 cars showed up for this 4-day event. They had the USRA Modifieds. We talked about young Trevor Hunt winning that race a little bit earlier. But I'm looking forward to the next one that rolls around next year.
Well, Kirk, I'm sitting here looking at the finishing order. And I guess I would say our highest finishing local guy would have been Rick Beebe. It looks to me.
And he had a good start in the race.
And that's 12th.
Yeah.
But still, the cream of the crop rise to the top, I should say. All the USMTS regulars, the guys that are out there contending week in and week out for the points. And not saying that Rick doesn't, because Rick is really fast. And that is a good finish for him, and I'm sure that was a pretty good payday. But then you've got him at 12th, then Johnny Allen 13th. Then really there's just, there's a lot of guys, a lot of touring guys that are finish there. There's not many regional local guys that were really in that A main.
A lot of guys had trouble. 14 cars finished the race. Mark Dotson was one of them. Looked like he might have a fast race car. He finished there towards the end. But I thought Rick Beebe had a good week down there.
That's
He
a
had
good
a great,
run, yeah.
great start, and he was able to get it to the end of that 75-lap race. Johnny Allen, you brought him up. He won last night's regular season opener down in Humboldt, finishing in 13th. And I was kind of surprised Johnny Bone Jr. didn't. He finished 7th. That's not bad, but he's a guy that's won so many races down there.
Yeah,
I would have thought
automatically
that he
think,
would
yeah.
be a guy challenging for the win.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, 913-381-0810. We've got a couple Racing Boys T-shirts to give away if you want to call in and let us know what you thought about the races down at Humboldt last week. Kirk, one thing I want to talk about, and if the listeners want to call in as well, we could talk about it. Again, a couple T-shirts here. Last week in Martinsville, we got to get into it, man. I mean, talk about a rugged finish at the end of that deal. And there's a lot of people that are pointing fingers at blame at, well, a lot of different people. David Rudiman is the first one that everybody wants to blame for causing that caution, staying out on the racetrack. And we can get into the reason that he did that. But I want to go through the people that are getting called out for the blame of the accident between Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. Oh, by the way, who between those two drivers led 440 laps, dominated that race, only to both of them have a bad finish right there at the end because Clint Boyer comes down and goes 3 wide into turn 1 on a green-white checkered restart. Now, folks, think about this. Is it Clint's fault that he went down there and went 3 wide and knocked Jeff Gordon up into Jimmy Johnson? A lot of people might say so. Is it David Rudiman's fault that he stayed out on the track and caused that caution and a green-white checker at the end of the race? If I was to say there was one person that was probably responsible for what happened, it would be David Rudiman. But I'm not going to be too hard on David Rudiman because David Rudiman was trying to stay out there and stay in the top 35 in points, and he needed to run a couple more laps in order to do that. He's currently 36th in points, I think. Was it 1 point out of 35th? So he's 1 point out, so he's got to qualify it on speed, and that is so important for these teams. So if there was anybody that maybe you were going to blame, I think it would be David Rudiman. But I'm going to tell you who I think is fault more than anything. It's the reflection of a group of cars having brand new tires behind two guys that had really fast cars throughout the entire race, again leading 440 laps between the two. They chose to stay out, and everybody else came in and got tires, either 2 or 4. And that is what happened. The reflection is when you have guys with fast cars and new tires behind guys that have fast cars on used tires, the guys with the new tires are going to be faster. And they only had 2 laps to get it done. And they had to get it done on that first lap of that green-white checkered because on that final lap, whoever is leading is going to block you to death trying to get back to that checkered flag and get the win. So if you're going to take a chance, the best time to do it and the best opportunity to do it is at the start of the green-white checkered, and that's what Clint Boyer did. Now, some people would say that Ryan Newman was a big play in that because he kind of shoved Clint Boyer down into turn 1. Yeah, but Ryan Newman, again, was just trying to get going with those brand new set of tires and get around the 2 guys that were up front, dominating the race up to that point. So I would like to hear, first of all, the fans out there, their opinion on who was at fault. And to me, I think, Kirk, you might agree with me on this. I think that it was more of a racing deal and a reflection of different pit stop strategies. How about yourself?
Yeah, I don't blame any of the drivers out on the racetrack. I do blame the situation that encourages drivers to ride around with a bad and broken race car in order to pick up a few extra points. I don't know how to address that issue, but to me, that's not racing. He was out there just trying to live to the end in order to pick up a few points to stay in the top 35, and it turns out it affected the end of the race.
What would you do different?
That's unfortunate, but I'm not blaming David Rudiman for that. I just think
what would you do different?
I don't like the top 35 in points. I don't like that situation at all. I think these guys need to go out there and qualify. In my mind, if I had it my way, these guys would go out there, the best 43 in time trials, make the race every week. I mean, we see it in NHRA where drivers don't make the show if they don't qualify. I think it ought to be the same way in NASCAR. This top 35 business, I don't like it at all.
I'm anxious to see what the listeners have to say. 913-381-0810. Kirk, I get.
I understand.
I
what
get what
Rudiman
you're
was
saying.
doing. I understand what Rudiman was trying to do, and I just don't blame him.
I get what you're
at all.
saying, but you really can't compare NHRA to NASCAR.
Well, only in the sense that if you don't qualify, you don't make the show.
But and here's my point. Here's what I'm trying to say. The reason you can't compare NHRA to NASCAR is that there's far more dollars invested.
on hold.
Far more dollars invested in running a Cup car than there is in an NHRA car. A top fuel car needs about $3 million a year sponsorship.
Well, that's
when
all
you're
relative.
talking about Cup, it's $15 to $25 million. There's more at stake. So those teams that have those big sponsorship dollars, NASCAR is making sure that those sponsors and those teams that are vested are in the race. Now, right or wrong, that's just the way it is. 913-381-0810. Let's go to the phones. Ryan's on first. Hey, Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Kurt, you are saying exactly what I've said for the past few years. I cannot stand the top 35. If you're not good enough to get in on speed, you don't deserve to be on the track. Plain and simple. I don't care who your sponsor is. I don't care who you are.
Well, I understand why they do it, Ryan, and I think you do too. It's to protect these major sponsors.
But let's be fair.
It also takes away from the credibility of the sport in a certain way.
I don't think so. I think that's a little strong. I don't think I think it's taking care of their franchises is what they're doing. I agree.
But swapping numbers back and forth when drivers get top 35 lock-ins when they don't deserve it?
They can only do that at the first of the year. I mean,
I don't even like it at the beginning of the year.
No, I agree. I'm not going to disagree with you. But the fact is, truthfully, if they were going to go on speed and speed only top 42 cars, because the 43rd position is a provisional, right? So 42 on speed.
And I especially don't like that past champions provision.
I don't have a problem with
that. That needs to be thrown out.
I don't think so. I disagree with you.
Hey, my boy Darrell lived on that for a while. Give him a little bit of a break.
Well, they made that for Darrell. Let's face it. That rule was designed for – no, actually it was designed for Richard Petty. Really, that's what that was. But still, I'm okay with that because those are our founding fathers of our sport in NASCAR, and they're the ones that helped build the foundation. I'm okay with that because you know what? There's not that many guys out there that have won championships that are trying to make the race anyway. It's good for the sport. They're a name brand guy. They need to be in the race anyway. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But the fact is, when we go back to the top 35, really, how many cars go home every week? Not many. And the ones that do go home every week, let's face it, they're not going to qualify in the top 35 anyway. Even on a good day, they rarely qualify in the top 35. Isn't that right, Ryan?
Yeah, and the one thing it gets me is about how many times when you have like the X amount of qualifiers, you have a park and start.
Mm-hmm.
I understand part of what they're trying to do, but the start and park gets absolutely nothing to me. All it does is cluster things up.
Let me say this. We're seeing less of the start and park. There is a few teams that are doing it. But the fact is that the start and park teams are not just there to make money, start, park, go home, count their money. A lot of those teams, what they do is they start and park a half a dozen races so they can build up enough racing capital so they can race for 2 or 3 races. Then they've got to start and park again. Look at Tommy Baldwin, Ryan. Just take a look at him. Look at what he has done with his start and park team. Now he's got a great group of drivers over there. Look, he's he's working with David Rudiman and Danica Patrick really think about that. He's got some GoDaddy money coming in there. He's getting some support from Hendrick Motorsports now. It was just 2 years ago we were complaining that he was a start and park team. So those start and park teams can grow up to be halfway competitive Cup teams.
Well, I guess with me, if you're going to do a start and park, I would think that you would maybe do the nationwide and maybe go down a little bit lower to build a little bit of credibility and experience and everything. Because in my mind, you can do all the practice you want until you get out into race mode. Me and you have been there before, and you're not going to get total practice unless you're out there with the group cars.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah.
Well, the start and
But-
park situation is a completely different subject in my mind than the making
Yeah.
the top 35.
As
I don't
long
think
as
you
you
can
have,
really,
Kirk, as long as you have the goal
Yeah.
to be a cup team, I'm all right with the start and park teams.
I don't have an issue with the start and park because how can you really enforce somebody wanting to pull in early?
Well,
You can enforce them to have a full-fledged pit crew. I guess that's something you can enforce, but you can't force somebody to stay out on the racetrack when they don't want to.
or force them to buy X amount of tires,
Right.
which I'm sure they do anyway.
I just think you need to be fast enough to make the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan.
Well,
Hey, Ryan, you want a T-shirt, bud?
sure, I'll take one, guys, always.
All right, give your number to Blake when we put you on hold here. Give your number to Blake, and we'll get one to you, okay?
I will do that real quick. This Clint deal,
Yep.
no one has said anything about Gordon Spotter. Because Gordon Spotter had to have known that Clint was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to go three wide.
I
down
will
the
tell you.
margin.
I mean, it's a touchy deal what he tried
It
to
is.
do, but the fact remains that it's a reflection of a bunch of guys with new tires behind guys with old tires on a green-white checkered restart, double file restart on a half-mile flat track. That's all it is. It's plain and
Well-
simple. You know, if you're gonna throw caution to the wind, you're gonna do it with 2 laps to go. That's just the way it is.
As I like to say, Clint was getting on the giddy-up.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Good call, Ryan.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I agree with you on that. You go
Wildcat
three wide at
Ted.
Martinsville. You got 2 guys on old tires.
Right.
Clint Boyer's on new tires, and he gets a shove down.
Everybody
to the
was
inside
on
of the
new tires.
racetrack. I mean, it's just a racing.
There was
deal.
a hornet's nest behind him of
Right.
new tires. Who'd you say we had back there, Blake?
Wildcat Ted.
Wildcat Ted. You're on with the Racing Boys. Hey, Ted.
Hey guys, pardon me, enjoy the show. I'm certainly not as big a race fan as you guys are, but for me, I want to see the fastest 35 run. And if you're saying that, the top 35 with the big sponsors are, the little guy's never going to outrun him anyway, then why not allow them to find out and see who the best racers are going to be and who has the best speed? Because I think when people go out to the track, they want to see the 35, 43, whatever the number of cars is, they want to see the fastest cars, and it's kind of exciting. If one of the little guys gets in, then you have somebody to root for. In regards to the race thing last week at Martinsville, why not institute a rule that, if you're out there and struggling along and just out there to cut laps, then you have to pull out with 10 laps to go so that you don't create situations like that. And every racer knows that, he can do the math, and if he can't make enough laps with 10 laps to go, then, maybe he gets off the track earlier, but at least then you don't have a situation where, what happened last week happened.
How about this, Ted? Maybe you've got a point there. Maybe all the people that are 1 lap or more down, they pull off at that point. But, sometimes that might only leave 15 cars out on the track. Would that be exciting for you to just watch? Because this is the big deal that we have this conversation with Kiesman all the time, He'd rather just see 20 cars out there.
Well, Keats and I are probably in the same group of race fan. I don't watch very many races.
Right.
So to me, I'm watching the front of the pack, and then I'm probably watching, a couple of guys that I like.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're running 18th or 19th, I don't care. They're probably not moving up at that point in the race. So if there's only 15 on the track, I think most people are watching the front 5 anyway.
Yeah.
And in regards to your comment on having the veterans, get the past champions thing.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but if you watch golf like the Masters, it's kind of like saying, well, we should allow Tom Watson to play all 4 rounds because he just needs to be out there.
Yeah, I agree.
And for that, some other guy doesn't get a chance to make a check. So, the Masters allows you to play the front 2 rounds, and if you're good enough and you make the cut, like Freddie Couples did, which is, 52 years old and amazing, then fabulous. You get to watch him play, and I think the same should be for NASCAR. If the older veteran driver is fast enough to be there on Sunday because he's a top 43 qualifier, great. If not, then the fans got to go out and watch him do time trials and meet him and do all those other things just because he's a part of the race that way.
Well, let me ask you this. If we went to where it was pure speed and you had it just qualifying on speed, and that's how everybody got into the race, and now Jimmy Johnson doesn't make the race, one of our biggest stars in our sport, if not the biggest star at this moment, if he doesn't make the race and there's no past champions provisional, what does that do for attendance? What does that do for the crowd that showed up to watch Jimmy Johnson race?
I think, well, You know, if I'm a big football fan and I like the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees gets injured the week before, am I still watching the Saints game? Probably.
Yeah.
If I'm a NASCAR fan and Jimmy Johnson's out 1 week because his car didn't perform and he didn't make it on speed, I'm still probably watching the race to see how much does he lose, how far behind does he get as a result of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So I know,
with that.
I think the sponsorship thing is, they have so many advantages anyway.
Yeah.
In terms of quality of car and attention and all of that, I don't think you need to build in another advantage. And as you said, I mean, if the little guy's never going to make it on speed anyway, what matters then?
Right.
Why not give him the opportunity to make it? Because it gives you a chance for other people to be involved. And I would say one other thing about NASCAR, like I say, I don't watch it a lot, but one of the things that really frustrates me is that when I do turn on a race, I don't know who's in what car anymore because the numbers all change. And I think the driver should have the same number no matter what team he's on.
The driver, the paint schemes change more than the numbers. The numbers rarely change. That only happens during the winter months, but that does happen. But that doesn't
still affects people like me year to year.
Right.
I couldn't tell you what number Clint Boyer is right now. I couldn't tell you. He used to be 7.
Yeah, 07. Then he was 33. Now he's 15.
And Tony Stewart used to be 20, but is he 14 now? I don't even. I'm totally guessing.
You see, Ted, what we need you to do is just watch more races. You would get that then after a while.
No. All right. That's what I'm going to do. I'm a casual fan.
Okay, Ted. Hey, would you like a RacinBoys shirt? We'll get you all necked up, though.
That would be great if you have one big enough. Fabulous.
All right, we probably do. We'll put you on hold, give your information to Blake, and we'll make sure we figure out how to get you one, okay?
Thank you very much. Appreciate
All right, Ted.
it, guys.
Good call, buddy. All right, we're going to take a break.